Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another show of Fuente and Marifel present Meet the Professor. Hello, world.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hi, everyone.
Today we have a very, very special show for you, ladies and gentlemen. The very wonderful, good-looking gentleman of our industry, the one and only Mr. Pete Johnson. Pete, welcome to our show.
How are you guys? Thanks for having me today.
It's a pleasure, Pete. How are you?
Wonderful, but I have to say your intro is amazing.
Isn't that fun?
I love that. That's a lot of fun.
We can loop it if you want. Pete, it's a real honor. It's a real pleasure. We're very, very grateful for having you on the show today. I'm going to learn a lot. Everybody's going to learn a lot. But you have so much to say, so many stories. And remember, this show's all about people and getting the industry players together. So not about brands, not about cigars, but about people. So we are so looking forward to shooting questions over at you and hearing more about the one and only Pete Johnson. I'll let the professor pick up from here.
First of all, Pete, it's a pleasure to have you on. We've known each other for a good amount of years, and we have like similar palates, and we love to talk tobacco. So we were talking, you and me. And I thought you were born in New Hampshire. So all of a sudden I found out that it was in Maine. So how was it growing up in Maine until what year were you there?
Born and raised in Maine. I was actually the only person in my family to be born in Maine. I left Maine in 1989 to Los Angeles to go to explore the music world. I actually wanted to become a rock star. And, you know, as soon as I got there, I joined a band. I had very long, pretty hair, and we went on a small tour. We had a lot of fun playing for about 3 years together, and then we broke up, and I needed a job. And I found the magical world of cigars.
Sweet.
Pete, talking about cigars, do you remember the first, because you'd always ask people, your first cigar and then your first really premium cigar? Do you remember the two that were?
Well, okay, this is horrible, but my first cigar was a cigar I actually stole from a grocery store.
Oh no, that's funny. That's great.
It was a Habba Tampa. It was a Habba Tampa. I might have been like, I don't know. I was young. When I finally grew up and I wanted to explore the world of cigars, my first cigar after that was a Bearing. I can't remember the size, but it was like a Corona size. It wasn't the Imperiale, but it was a Bearing. And then my first premium cigar was a Pleiades, or what they would call Pleiades. So that was around 1990 or 1991 for a premium cigar. I remember spending $2.50 and being worried that I spent too much money on a cigar.
That's great. Oh wow.
Crazy. So I know, because we've talked about it and I've read a lot about you. You know, I'm kind of not only a cigar geek, but also a history geek. And I like to know about people. So what was your first experience in a retail shop?
My first job with retail was in 1993, early 1993. I started working for a place called Gus's Smoke Shop in Studio City, California. Gus's Smoke Shop was the oldest cigar store in California, 1927. The owner of the store was a gentleman by the name of Jimmy Hurwitz. That's where I met all of my favorite people in the cigar industry. That's where I met Carlito for the first time. I think I met Cynthia first there. Cynthia was like from what I remember, Cynthia was like their in-house rep almost. Like she's the one that actually would go visit them. And my first job was actually mixing their pipe tobacco blends. Instead of actually working in the humidor, the store was very well known for pipes and pipe tobacco. So I had to sit in the back and play in a bowl of tobacco all day. but that was really where the bug. I mean, the bug hit me earlier than that, but I actually wanted to move back to my home state of Maine to open up a cigar store and a coffee shop side by side to each other. And then, hey, Carlito.
Hey, bro, what's up?
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm doing good.
Good to see you on time.
Just listen. No, I've been listening. I just couldn't find which link. I kept getting onto everybody else's program. And then I saw it. Hey, no,
I want to know if these Purple Rains are good.
I don't know, man. You let me know. If anybody's a good judge, it's you, Pete. I was just thinking to myself when you mentioned Gus's and everything, and this is all about reminiscing. And you mentioned Cynthia being the actual rep. And no offense to Michael Doherty, who I love, dearly like a brother as I do you. And I've known you both about for the same amount of time, if not Michael just a hair longer. But business has never been the same since Cynthia doesn't go in there anymore in the greater LA area.
Well, Gus is eventually shut down.
No, I know.
But this was when Joe Dickman was still your rep in California. So Joe Dickman was actually still the rep in California when I was working at Gus's.
Bulldog Joe Dickman. Bulldog.
Yeah.
And Wayne, no, it wasn't Wayne, actually. I think it was Enrico Barone. Enrico had a nickname for everyone. And those are stories. We could go on to stories and stories. And that's what happens when Tattoo Pete comes on the show. All of a sudden, your mind goes back so many years and so much fun and growing up in this business. And I say growing up because we were all kids, man. It's even though I could be your dad in age, but to me, I was a kid back then, and you were.
Well, I was a kid. I was 22 when I first met you. And I'm 50 in December. So 27, 28 years almost in the cigar industry.
Yeah.
But I love it. To me, there's no better industry. There's no better people. And honestly, it's because of people like you and your dad and Robbie Levin is why the bug hit me so hard early on, because I was like, man, these are way better people than the music industry.
Wow.
Like way better.
Wow.
That's not very difficult. You're going to have to do better than that, Pete.
Pete, so you were at Gus's for a while, and I know for a fact that you were approached to go to New York to run the Grand Havana room. And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the Grand Havana room came a little later. In 1995, I left Gus's, late 95, and I kind of floated around the industry for a little bit. Visited the Dominican Republic multiple times. Got an Opus X tattoo on my arm, during that break. And then, so people don't know this, but I was the original fanboy. I was the original cigar fanatic, the first with an Opus X tattoo.
Yeah.
And I actually got a job with the Big Easy. I went to New York briefly to interview for a job because our good friend George Brightman referred me to a place in Long Island, actually in the Hamptons. And I never took the job. I ended up staying in California. And then somewhere around mid to late 96, I got offered, actually before Grand Havana in New York opened up, which I think was like in 96, they offered me to go there. It was when Joey Pants was still working for him. And I honestly didn't want to go. I didn't want to go to New York. I didn't know the city that well. I loved it, but I didn't know it that well. And I didn't want to move there. So I stayed in Los Angeles, and eventually somewhere around late 97, the Grand Havana room came back to me and asked me to be their director of retail for their whole company. So I did that for 9 years, actually. Even while I was working at the Grand Havana room, I started my brand in 2003. So I still worked at the Grand Havana room up until 2006 because I really couldn't afford to do one or the other.
You mentioned 2003. I just want you to know a very dear friend of yours and a very dear friend of mine reached out to me, and he said, "Do you know this gentleman by the name of Pete Johnson? He's coming out with these amazing cigars. Oh my God, those cigars are incredible." And it just happens to be a very mutual friend that we both love and everything, who didn't know that I knew you. We were such close friends, and we always mention all the time. And that is our dear friend Frank Mancuso Jr. Yeah, he loves you and everything. You know, I
haven't seen him in a long time, but Frank's a great man.
Yeah, he's living in New Mexico, Santa Fe now, but we stay in touch. And you must have given him some prototypes or blends you were working on and everything. And he called, man, this is incredible. What a great cigar. So it's, listening to you just brings back so many memories. And one thing, I'm going to let you be interviewed because this is your show. This is a professional show.
But I love talking about the past. I mean, I grew up in this industry, and this is one of my biggest reasons why I've stayed in this industry is because of the people. And I always have to say that for me, I live in the past and I respect the people that came before me. And to me, some of the greatest masters that aren't with us anymore, are people I consider mentors. So
yes,
I love it. There's nothing better than it.
And, you keep mentioning the past, as I always do. And I believe that I repeat it over and over that if you don't document the past, you forget it. And speaking to you now for that reason, I want the whole world to know, in the beginning and development of Fuente Opus X, a mutual friend named George Brightman also, who was involved from the very beginning. But I got a call from a young man in California that said, "Bro, you got to come out with an A size." And I had no idea or had any intention to ever come out with an A size because the wrappers were not that big and so forth. And for all the reason, it's very, very difficult to make. And he says, "Bro, you got to come out with an A size. But let me tell you something. You have to package it in an individual coffin for it to be successful." So that beautiful box of A's with 20 Opus X coffins that weighs about 2 tons when you pick it up has brought in so much money for charities. And there's nothing more that I love more than having a beautiful woman or myself walking by all the tables and say, "Just hold this. Look at this. Look at the value. Look at the weight." And it reminds me of like the SD DuPont, the Line 2, the weight, the feel. And, a young man in California was the genius behind that. So I thank you very much, Pete Johnson. Thank you.
Trust me, I just love sharing thoughts and ideas. I remember being in your factory in '96, and you had just come up with the Super Bellicoso. And I happened to have an old Boulevard Bellicoso band in my wallet, and I put it around the cigar, and I said, "Identical." Because, early on, if I'm not mistaken, Opus X was surrounded by old Vitolas, like historic Vitolas from Cuba, right?
No, that's absolutely correct. And the reason why, again, is because of a dear friend named George Brightman.
Yeah.
I asked him.
George has the best ideas.
No, it's,
and the worst as well.
But it was a time when I was developing the Project X from Planet 9. And, what sizes you come out with and everything. And George is the one that recommended you ask. George, what he says, stick to the old classics. Cigar aficionado, race cigars on the old classic Cubans. Stick with the old classic, with the classic Robusto side, with the classic Churchill size, the classic Bellicoso size, the classic Pyramid size. And that's how it all started, because the industry had evolved where a Churchill could have been 7.25 by 52, or a Robusto 4.5 by 54, or 4.5 by 50, or 5.5 by whatever. And it really had evolved. Everybody wanted to make something a little bigger, a little different, and everything. And they got away from the classics. And and George Brightman was very responsible. That's how it all started. So you're absolutely right.
Well, I love the classics. So I'm happy.
We got a message coming in from Rich. Apparently, it's George Brightman's birthday today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know. I did not know. Happy birthday,
Yay.
George.
Happy birthday, George.
Happy
Many
birthday,
more.
George.
Happy birthday, big man.
Virgos are the
Uh,
I'll
Pete,
take this opportunity to salute. We got a lot of people watching the show here, including our distributors from Lebanon, people everywhere in the world. Let's just take a moment and say hi to everybody and show our appreciation. We hope everybody's safe and well, and we're so blessed that on a Sunday, people are wasting their times watching a bunch of us on the show. But for whatever it's worth, we appreciate it, guys.
Good morning, world.
Yay.
Good afternoon, world, and good evening.
good evening, world.
And thank you so much for being a part of this extended family. We send our love.
Mhm.
Pete, already you had worked, you had developed a palette, you had met Carlito, you had met many people of the industry. So let's talk about Pepin Garcia now, which is a very important part as family and as the man that makes your cigars. What made you go to Pepin? What was different from Pepin? Because you had told me already that you were playing around with different people. What note was it that struck you about Pepin?
Well, honestly, in the mid 90s, I wanted to work on my own cigar or a cigar brand with a factory. And that was like the worst time to ever think about it. Of course, my first choice was the Fuente family, but they were really busy in the mid 90s. And I think, honestly, I just kind of gave up on it and waited. And eventually, a friend of mine named Ben Gehrman, he was a Villazon rep in Los Angeles. Obviously, by that time, I was General. But he was working for Tropical, and he called me and says, we got this guy that just came in from Cuba that might be able to make you a good cigar if you still want to make a cigar. I go, well, I kind of gave up the idea about it. And to be honest, the first few samples I tried, I didn't like. We had a conversation through translation. Obviously, I didn't speak much Spanish back then, and he spoke no English, and he speaks very little now, even today. And to be perfectly honest, as soon as we started talking about his history, where he came from, and old Cuban cigars, I brought out an old Cuban cigar that I knew was really smoking well, and he actually said, "You want this?" And I said, "Yeah, I want something like that." And the next cigar he rolled out of the same tobacco that I didn't like the samples from earlier, he actually rolled me almost like a replica of that cigar that we were smoking. So it was really just kind of like spur of the moment, like, okay, that's it. I'm going to try it. And I don't know who this guy is. He doesn't know who I am. I don't think the industry had no idea who Pepin was at the time. And I just jumped over the bridge and said, I'm going to try this and see if I can make a go at it. But I stayed 3 years working for Gran Havana while I still did the brand because I still needed to make a living. People think the cigar industry is easy. It's not that easy. Like, especially when you don't come from a family background. Now, being with the family so close for 17 years, I have that true family background. But I've always respected family business. Of course, again, it goes back to my mentors in this business. They're all part of family-owned and operated companies. I wouldn't say there's many of my mentors in this business that actually work for big conglomerates. They all work for, true family enterprises. And that's why I love being part of this new family that I'm part of. Obviously, my beautiful wife, Yanni Garcia, Pepin's daughter. I'll tell you, Jose, it was really cool for me being in the industry for a while and not knowing who Pepin was, but taking a chance on someone that no one knew. And even my mentors back in the older days were questioning, like, are they treating you okay? Are they making you good cigars? And I was like, absolutely. A lot of people told me not to put my eggs in one basket. I enjoyed the basket I was in. Plus, I felt like it was kind of like my thing. But my mentors were always kind of worried to make sure that I was okay. I was like in a good space. And I thought that was really cool.
Pete, you come out with a name, and you and I talked about it, not yesterday, but since the launch. So you come out with tatuaje that represents you. So people could not pronounce the name. I was in shops, and I tell this story all the time. This guy I'm in a shop, I can't remember. The guy comes in, and he said every word in Spanish except tatuaje. So the last thing he says, and we're like, I know what it was, but fooling around. And the guy says, so the owner says, I can't remember who it was. Can you tell us about the guy? The guy that has all the tattoos in his arm. That's a real nice guy. Oh, you mean tatuaje? The guy said, yes, damn tatuaje. Can I get a box of them?
That's a great story.
Well, if people did not know what tatuaje or how to pronounce it in the past, I am absolutely sure, because I hear it over and over again in my walks of life, tatuaje, tatuaje, tatuaje. And today, people know what tatuaje is. They know how to pronounce it. And Pete has done an amazing job. It doesn't, God work in mysterious ways. I always say that. Pete,
Well, Carlito,
the best thing that ever happened to you is that we were in the middle of the boom. We were so oversold, because look how destiny plays out. You are now part of one of the most respected families in the world of cigars. Amazing cigars, amazing family, a beautiful wife. This is destiny, and it's your world, and it's a world that you were part of from the very beginning, and you contribute in building it. Because I really believe the Garcia family is in a position they are today because there was a Pete Johnson that believed in them. And we never can forget. And don't be humble, but I really believe that. It's just my opinion.
well, without their work, there's no me, and without me, maybe there's no. They're going to be there anyways eventually. But honestly, we had a lot of help along the way when our friend Robert Levin got involved working with them. Also, that almost validated them, because when you have a guy like Robbie Levin, who has amazing cigars made by the Fuente family, and all of a sudden he decides to make a new cigar made by another family, that's almost like validating that family. And to be honest, Carlito, you were one of the first manufacturers and family-owned companies that actually reached out to them and was very, generous with your time, and you were very open with them early on. And a lot of people were scared of the Garcias early on, but you were there. You were having conversations with them. There was nothing more than love right there, which was really cool.
No, Robbie, when he reached out to me because of our relationship and business together, when he reached out to me about, because we've had these brands for years, and to be fair, we just couldn't produce more cigars. And we had several brands that Robbie owns that were destined to be made or they were proposed to be made in the Dominican Republic, but it's just not fair. And when Robbie approached me about, I don't want to say permission, but how was my feelings if I would be okay with it? I said, man, look, he makes great cigars. Pete Johnson's a good friend. And your name came up all during this conversation. And it was because you had the faith in him. You had grown with him. You had built a business with him, because I didn't know the Garcia family at that time. I don't think I may have already heard their name through you, but I didn't know them. And I said, Robbie, man, you got my blessings. They're great people. I think they'll be great and everything. So, it's just, it's something that I think that you made the best move, and so did Robbie. And it's been good for everybody. And that's all we want in this world. It's just for everyone to be successful, everyone to be happy. And
well, Carlito,
my
I think,
blessings, brother.
But Carlito,
I think you're right.
Pete was smarter, because not only he got into the business, but he also married the daughter.
Yeah.
You got to tell me more about that, Pete. So
wait.
You went into the family.
Well,
they gave you the
Jeremiah,
family secrets. Hold on a second. They gave you the family secrets. And then they put a gun to your head and said, "This is not leaving the family."
No, or the daughter married him, because let me just say something. Pete Johnson, every time I'm around, everybody sees me speaking to him. He doesn't know it, but all the ladies wants to know, do you know him? Could you introduce me to him? So, Pete Johnson made a great choice. He's with a great family. But, he might not be aware of it, but he was definitely hunted by many women at that time.
The Bachelor.
Well, I'm very happy now. Carlito, I go back a little bit because you're right. It's out of respect. And Robbie had a conversation with you and your family, your dad probably.
Of course.
And I would have the same conversation with Pepin and Jaime and my wife if I decided to make another cigar with someone else, because it's out of respect.
Absolutely.
Because honestly, it's family pride. You know, it's like Cuban people, they're very proud of what they do. And if you want to make a move to make a product with someone else, they almost feel like maybe they've messed up something and they didn't do the job that you expected. And it's like the reverse. They're really proud of what they do and they think they're doing the world for you. But if you say, hey, I want to go work with whoever and make a cigar, they would feel like almost depressed. It's a Cuban pride.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's more respect than anything.
Absolutely. So true.
I'll tell you,
Great story.
your dad was one of the guys that scared me more than anybody.
Oh my God.
Like, I mean, like it was one of those guys that
you
like,
second. You were second. I was first.
But he was one of those guys that like I would feel comfortable around him, but at the same time, I wanted to feel like I was, proper around him too, because he was a very intimidating man that was very, very focused on the goal. And he was always that guy that if I would run into him, I always paid him a lot of respect. And it was just like I all of a sudden would button up, but I'd be goofing off like 10 minutes before. But as soon as I saw him, I'd clean my act up. He's the one that said that I was crazy for getting the Opus X tattoo. Yes. And that's the day that everybody started calling me Tattoo Pete. You, Wayne, Robbie, yes. And your dad called me Tattoo Pete. I'll be honest, when I started searching for a brand name, I didn't know what the Spanish word for tattoo was. So we go back to that. So I had to ask a busboy at the Grand Havana Room. I said, how do you say tattoo in Spanish? They're like, tatuaje. I'm like, that's it. That's the name. And everybody thought, I was like, why would you want to call a cigar tatuaje? Like, what does that even mean? And the family, again, saw me walk in the factory and they're like, okay, we get it. Like,
but
so you walked into a factory without your shirt?
No, just the arms.
No, but that's beautiful because it represents so much because it's you and it's being yourself and being sincere and doing your own thing, man. That's really, really nice. You created, you were able to put yourself, who you were, inside embody it in a cigar and be successful. I think that's every entrepreneur's dream.
I'll be honest, though. I don't think the last name Johnson would have gone anywhere for the cigar industry. The Big Johnson cigar, right?
Hey, I'm sure.
Everything out in the normal in the main media, though, it's like Pete Johnson. Wow, that name just sounds awesome.
Pete, let me ask you. A lot of people have asked because people say about so how does Pete Johnson, Dan Walsh, and Casey, three phenomenal people. I mean, Casey, your brother's great, and Dan. I haven't spent a lot of time with him, but I did have a good time with him at the last TAA, and the three of you have done an incredible job. So, how did that happen?
Well, Dan and I were friends early on. He was a member of the Grand Havana Room. We became friends over an Opus XA, actually. He was smoking cigars at the Grand Havana store while I was still working there, and he inquired about membership, and I called the director of membership. I said, there's a guy sitting in the store smoking a cigar with me that's a really good dude. And we became best friends. He became a member. We would be at the club every night smoking cigars, and then we became wine geeks together. Like wine geeks, we like studied wine just the same way we would study cigars. And fast forward, my brother was, working kind of a going nowhere job for a place in Maine, and I wanted to kind of branch out of Tatuaje a little bit and start like a side project company, even though they're all together now. So I wanted to put a team together, like a focus group, to do stuff different than what we were doing with Tatuaje already. And it was a good idea. It was a lot of fun. And eventually now it's all wrapped up under Tatuaje, and Casey and Dan work full time for the company. I mean, a lot of people don't know, Casey and Dan spend most of the time on the road. Not right now, obviously. But our office in Los Angeles is fairly small. We have 3 employees in Los Angeles.
Wow.
Yeah, we're not a big company. We love being on the smaller scale, but 3 guys in the office in Los Angeles know how to get the job done, and that's all that matters.
That's awesome. Streamlined.
Pete, you have been very, very involved with the CRA, which we're going to talk. I know Carlito's going to talk a little bit about that. But one thing that caught my attention years ago, and you confirmed it to me because I try to get the facts straight, no fake news, the Professor Show. When people join Saints and Sinners, which you have a huge following all over the world, people get a free membership, or I don't know how it really works with the CRA. And that, I think, you're probably one of the only clubs that has that, like you joined Saints and Sinners and you're part of it. So I want you to talk a little bit about that, but also to talk about CRA, all the hard work that you have put in with your team and the time and efforts.
Well, I was a member of the CRA since day one, back in the days when Brian Burma was around. To touch on the Saints and Sinners thing, the program of Saints and Sinners, we just started the whole CRA package 2 years ago. So this year and then the previous year. But I decided that I wanted every member of Saints and Sinners to support the CRA. And what we did is we tacked on an additional fee to be a member. But for that fee, they get the membership for the CRA, and then we send them additional 2 cigars that we make specially for those members that join. So I think last year we signed up around 1,600 members. This year is going to be about the same. And so every year we raise an extra about $30,000 for the CRA through Saints and Sinners. But I've always been very involved with the CRA. I did take a break with my involvement during the year that I was producing the documentary Handrolled, because I was putting all my money towards building a beautiful movie about the industry. But now I'm back, and I'm actually part of the board. Carlito and Robbie and a bunch of people voted me onto the board. I don't know why, but
we needed your money. No,
Rob,
on the contrary, we were receiving all the support and everything. It's just it's a joke. It's a family table joke. But
well, Robbie called me. Robbie called me and said, "Congratulations." So I go, "On what?" He goes, we voted you onto the CRA board. He goes, "I don't know if it's a good thing, but you're on the board. You want to be part of it?" I go, "Yeah, absolutely." And I actually learned a lot because being away from it and not being on the board, you don't see a lot of the interaction of what's going on. You just kind of read about it here and there, but it was pretty eye-opening. And honestly, whenever Robbie says jump, when he calls me and says, "Hey, we need you to put in more money," I do it because honestly, that's who I am. I mean, I believe it's the best thing in our industry to keep on pushing forward what we are. And I believe that more of the industry should be involved. We don't have enough people. I will say this out loud. We don't have enough people involved. We don't have the financial support from enough people. I give to the CRA what I can afford. And I think that's fair, right?
Absolutely. More than fair.
I think there's a lot of people out there that are making a lot of money off the industry that should also support and give money based on what they can afford. We just don't get enough of it, and it'd be nice to see, the industry as a whole come together and let's get a big old bank account going so we can pay these lawyers and fight the FDA and all these things that we have to deal with coming up, because we're going to need it.
You need to get a lawyer who is a big fan of cigars, so he'll do it pro bono.
For trade.
Not on this planet, Melanie.
No,
Pete, you know that we had a very favorable ruling from the judge, something that we all thought would not be possible. One of the things, and I know that Carlito, you, the Newmans, Lito, Jorge Padron, we know the people there are. I might be missing a couple. So when we got this win on the label that we're not going to ruin our beautiful boxes, I remember that Carlito called me that night. But going now to the last judgment, the last ruling, I've said this on a lot of shows. I'm very happy for it, but I think that people are not realizing that we just won a small battle. I personally believe we have to have one agenda. We have to put some egos aside, some pride aside, and all of us get together. Because if we do not all get together as a team with one objective, which is to get an exemption for cigars, and that people, the senators, the congressmen, the government understands that we're not the vape industry, we're not the cigarette industry, we are the cigar industry, a very small industry of mom and pop shops. If you put together all the brands, it's basically all family and little boutique companies and medium-sized companies and things like that. So I would like to hear from you. I'm not going to say it's a plea, but what would you like to see from the industry right now?
I honestly, I've said this for a while that we should have one organization in our industry. I'm sure some people will think differently, but I believe that we should have one organization, one funding source, one way to raise money, get a lot of money in our bank account to fight these big things that we have coming up. Because again, like you said, it's a small battle we won, and we have bigger battles coming up. That there's no guarantee with the battle we just won. It's a reprieve. It could come back tomorrow, and I think with unity there's power, and when we're a unified industry, there's a lot of power behind us. I mean, honestly, if you go back in time when the cigarette industry was lying to Congress back in the early days, that would have been the greatest time for an organization like the CRA to be started and say, hey, listen, us, the premium cigar sector, we have nothing to do with this. We agree with what you're talking about. The cigarette industry is lying to the consumers, and we want to be known as our own sector in the tobacco world. But I mean, we have to do that now, right? We have to move forward doing that, and to have one group, one big bank account, and one funding source. And that's why I'm such a big fan of the PCA, because I want that money. I mean, I want that money that they have built up in their coffers to help us more towards the regulations and everything we have that we're fighting for right now. It's really important for everybody that steps on our trade show floor that they understand that we need help from all sides and not just 14 companies. And that's the reality. There's like 14 companies that are paying all the bills. We need money from everybody.
You're absolutely right, Pete. And, I think you're right. One voice is very important. And if you remember correctly, you have been from day one, as you said, a big supporter for cigar lovers' rights, financially, personally, and emotionally. You've been involved and you've given so much. And one thing that you've done with Saints and Sinners is you bring the people in. And if you remember Cigar Rights of America, the purpose, the intention of forming Cigar Rights of America was to make it a consumer organization, not a manufacturer's organization. The manufacturers, the few manufacturers who originated Cigar Rights of America, were on the board and had to bring in the finances to get it started. But the idea was that eventually the board would be replaced by consumers and the manufacturers will move off the board. I believe we have to have one organization, which includes everyone in the premium handmade cigar industry, from the farmers to the manufacturers to the brick and mortar retailers, everyone, all the manufacturers, big, small, boutique, or even the entrepreneurs who are dreaming about coming into the industry, but also all the cigar clubs, all the consumers, which you've been a big part. It's all one, and we need the consumers. They are the voice. They're the ones that they're the local representatives, the people in politics in Washington and their neighborhoods listen to. And they're the ones who eventually, ultimately, will be affected when they don't have to right to enjoy a legal product or have a right to make a choice, which is one of the great principles of the greatest country in the world, the United States of America. And I congratulate you, and I'm so grateful for your support, as everyone in the industry should be.
No, I love being part of it. And I mean, look what's happening with Suffolk County, New York, with the bill that they want 25 years old to buy a legal product. I mean, that's just absurd. I mean, okay, everybody went up to 21, but to 25, I think that's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. I mean, there's a lot of crazy out there, and that's crazy.
It's kind of an insult. It's like, really, guys?
It just goes to prove that you give the government 1 inch or bureaucracy, and they'll want more and more and more. That's why what Pete has mentioned is this is just a breather. We won a battle, but we haven't won the war. We'll come back. And we have a breather. We have time to reunite and bring everyone together. And if we want to enjoy our lives and be able to do the things that we love the most, then we all have to unite. We have no choice. Forget the past. Forget about who did what or who contributed or who did not. You know, now's the time to start fresh and really build something that's strong and be inclusive to everyone, from, like I said, from manufacturers, tobacco growers, to, the retailers, wholesalers, and of course the consumers.
Do you have like a registration number or something that you can prove that you're a member?
For Saints and Sinners, or for CRA?
For CRA, after you register.
You actually get a membership card from the CRA. I don't know what the database looks like. Carlito, you might be able to answer that better than I can. But
I was just thinking if I could find, if people joined and then they showed us that they joined, we could do a giveaway that way.
You could go to cigarrights.org and you could find all the information necessary. If not, just write Pete Johnson and join Saints and Sinners and everything, and you get a free membership. As a matter of fact, my membership is coming up. So Pete, let us know how we become members of Saints and Sinners, because I definitely would like to get a free membership.
Well, it's funny that you say that. There are actually a few manufacturers and a lot of retailers that are members of the club. So it's for money. For me, it's a little bit funny because I think there's a couple hundred members of Saints and Sinners that are lifetime members. And when I told them that they're going to get an extra membership, they're like, "What are we supposed to do with it? I'm a lifetime member." I said, "Give it to your friend." Yeah, but I just want to know one thing before I join, and I will join. I just want to know, I have to check the box whether I'm a saint or a sinner. No, we're all saints and sinners.
We are.
We all have our demons, and
I love it. I definitely love it. I love the name. I love it. It's beautiful.
Pete, let me ask you this, because I asked this to a lot of people we've interviewed here, and I'm going to give you an example. You did for Donna Brown in California a special cigar that I enjoyed it very much. I was there that day. She raised, out of the exclusive that you gave her, she put $5,000 aside. Mm-hmm. That night, it was $50 that time, the membership. She was paying for people to join. And I was there. I can't remember who else from CRA was there. Still, people were resistant to join. I want to hear your 2 cents on that, because Glenn said it. Many people we've had it. Why do people resist, even if you're giving it to free, to join an organization that is fighting for your rights and fighting for the livelihood of the industry and the livelihood of people in Nicaragua, Honduras, Ecuador, Mexico, Costa Rica, Dominican. I mean, what do you think it is? Or is it something we're doing wrong? What do you think it is?
And Professor, we can't forget also, it's not just the Caribbean and Central America and everything. It's all those brick and mortars in Florida into the 50 states of the United States, all the people that work, all the people who deliver the cigars, all the ones that work in cigar lounges. It's jobs all over the world. And not only jobs, it's a passion, and it's the greatest American pastime that so many people depend on, not only for their livelihood, but for that moment to get away from stress and sit down with friends and be able to have a educated conversation, relax with a cigar, and enjoy the simple things of life that we can all afford.
I think, Jose, I think sometimes, people just don't care. I mean, that's the reality. It's like, I think, like they just want to buy a cigar and smoke a cigar, which we love the fact that they want to do that in the first place. But when it comes down to getting involved, a lot of people just choose not to. And I can respect that.
Yes, and I do also. But I think it's more than people just don't care. I think there's a lot of people that know other people care for them, and that is the case in the cigar industry. I've said it before on this show, and I say it over and over. It breaks my heart to see so many people who have come into this industry and have contributed so much as far as their products and their time. They become millionaires, but they haven't given 1 cent for the cause to defend others. And they've benefited. They don't have warnings on their boxes right now, thanks to the CRA and us fighting so hard and the PCA and so forth. And, on September the 9th, the millions of dollars that would have cost so many companies and so many companies out of business, but we don't look at the past. I just want to have an open invitation, as you do and everybody on the board, and I think most people in the industry, to start from fresh and welcome everyone. But I think go on.
Yeah, I think really what's important is transparency. And I think a lot of the smaller companies might have felt like they weren't allowed to be involved. And maybe they weren't getting all the information, even though we were putting out there, they just weren't seeing it. And they thought that the money was going towards some slush fund, which is just ridiculous. That people need to know that every dime that the CRA, brings in goes towards fighting for the rights of what we do, not just for the right of smoking, but for the right of manufacturing and even retail sales. So it's really important that we move forward, and the information is power, and we get the information out to everybody, and we just open up the books and let everybody see that, hey, we're doing good for the industry. And that's why that one organization to wrap up all of our work would be really helpful, so we're all in the same room together. We all have a voice and we all get the job done.
I totally agree. And whenever that opportunity comes, when we have the discussion openly within the movers and shakers, you help me pound the table and hit it hard, because you could hit a hell of a lot harder than I can, because I would fight to defend every word you just said.
Well,
and remember, and it's very important that everybody out there remembers, we said it the other day on Melanie's birthday show, and we're going to say it again tonight. Consumers have an enormous responsibility. Carlito mentioned it a bit earlier on. And that responsibility is a very, very simple one. Get up, go onto your internets, type in www.CRA.org, Carlito?
Cigarrights.org.
Cigarrights.org, and donate $1. Donate $1. Every single one of you consumers, go out there and do something, a little something, and you have no idea how much difference that's going to make. Nobody is too rich, nobody is too poor to get on their computers and make a move, and it's going to make a huge difference. And if everybody does that, the governments will be shaking, because there's hundreds and thousands and millions of consumers out there. Yeah. And that in itself is going to make a lot of noise. It's not only the money, but it's the amount of people that mobilize themselves. And you, consumers. Every single one of you will be responsible for keeping this industry alive. It's not the manufacturers, it's not the farmers, it's not the Pete's and the Carlitos and the Jeremiah Marifels of this world who are going to manage alone to keep this industry alive. It's you as a consumer that is going to make a difference.
You know, Jeremiah, and probably perhaps more valuable than sending in that dollar is there's all kind of forms and there's all kind of examples on the webpage of cigar rights that all you have to do is press a button and click and send it to your representative, to your congressman, to your senator, to Washington. And that's really what makes a difference. That's what they see. They see their constituents, and they listen, and it makes a huge difference. So even without contributing a dollar, not that right now, CRA is in debt with so much money of legal fees that we still owe our attorneys for the judgment that took place through the warning labels and now in September and all the other things that we've been fighting. And we're still scrapping together, seeing how we're going to be able to meet our obligations. So the money is important, but it's not the money alone. It's to be engaged. It's to be engaged in a voice. And all it takes is just getting on your computer, your cell phone, and just pressing a button and click. It could make the world of difference for all of us.
I think it's our responsibility also to make our consumer base aware of everything too. So when you see a win, we need to repost it. If we want to get the word out, like all of us as distributors or brand owners, manufacturers, all of us, retailers alike, need to get on Facebook and Instagram and just keep on posting things saying support your industry. Because every time they smoke a cigar, they're supporting our industry. But we're hoping we can get them to do a little bit more and join us like a big family and fight as a big family.
Pete,
well said.
Have you ever heard of Melanie's Hotspot?
No.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
This is like rapid fire questions.
Buckle your seatbelt, Mr. Pete Johnson, because here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Melanie's Hotspot. Melanie.
Jeremiah is so great with the introductions. All right, so I do have some good questions, but first I am going to chime in and talk about a few seconds. So we do have the winners from the other night that played on our actual show, and so I was just going to say them off real quick. I have the first winner was J.R. Davis, who I know is watching, so that's really cool. You're the number one. Leo Stone was number 2, and then Josh Ulam was number 3. And so I will be sending you guys little messages so you can send me your email address, or you can go ahead and send me your email address, or not. Yes, your actual address, physical address, so that I can mail that stuff to you. All right, so my question, Pete, to you, I wanted to just kind of like try something different and go off of, maybe it's work, maybe it's just in life, but what's your pet peeve?
I'm a perfectionist by nature. If I can't do something right, it really frustrates me. But I will say what my biggest pet peeve about our industry is. And this is being brutally honest. I'm not a fan of a guy that just came out with a brand a week ago and all of a sudden claims to be a master. That's a big word for our industry, and there's only a few of them. There's only a few masters out there. So when I hear that a guy that's been producing a cigar at a factory he doesn't own for 3 weeks and he claims to be the master blender of the cigar, I kind of laugh, and that's kind of where I get a little irritated.
Right, that's almost with probably every industry.
Because you're taking a lot away from the people that are truly the masters that have worked all their life to. I would never I could be in the industry for another 25 years and I'll never claim to be a master at something that I'm really good at. Exactly. And plain and simple.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's all relative. All right, so then next question, I'm gonna go with my what is your go-to guilty pleasure?
I like
Well,
that one.
I'm a wine geek, so like that's my go-to guilty pleasure. I've been collecting wine as long as I've been collecting cigars. Obviously, I was a cigar collector before I became what I do now, but I'm still a collector. But the wine, I love digging into the cellar and finding something fun. And people have been seeing me post a lot of pictures of old bottles of wine, and they're like, "Wow, you must have a lot of money." I'm like, "No, I've had this bottle since it came out, and it cost me $17 when I bought it. And now it's worth a lot more." But
Cool.
yeah, I love wine, and that's probably my guiltiest pleasure.
Awesome. Well, I have to say that I used to get when I worked in retail, I would get your I guess just requests to have your cigar from Miami all the time. Everybody's like, "Do you have the Tatuaje? Tatuaje?" There's always, but I don't think we ever sold it or we ever carried it. But
Yeah, the Miami product is pretty sought after, and it won basically because it's made in Miami by 10 Rollers, and
okay.
to be honest, we're very proud of the fact that it's made in the United States. But the family obviously makes amazing cigars in Nicaragua too.
Awesome. Well,
Definitely.
Pete, you know, you mentioned something about that sometimes amazes me because I've been around for a while, and people call me the guru, call me the professor. They call me all sorts of things. And still, after smoking 55 years,
Jose, you want to tell them what we call you?
even though I've been smoking for 55 years and I've been involved in cigars since the age of 14 and a half with Hochi's father and all that, I'm still, whether it's with Jeremiah, with Carlito, when I spend a lot of time with Pepin, you know how close I am to Pepin from the beginning, with Uncle Benji, I'm still asking questions. So what you said, you know, I hear it, I just let it go. But for those who are going to start now, because there's a lot of people really happy with the ruling, they don't understand really that it's just a small victory, that like you and Carlito said, next month it could just go away. But for those people, they're going to start. Because a lot of people said to me at the show, they would bring me a little bag with 3 cigars. And, oh, Mr. Blanco, could you please, we know you smoke everything. Could you taste my cigars? The first thing I would ask them, so what are you looking for? Well, I'm trying to make a cigar like this company or that company or that company. I would tell them, that's already a successful brand. You got to come out with something different. So what's your 2 cents? I won't say, take that back, 2 cents. Your advice. I think people have to be original, have to be creative. There's a lot of things that go into that. So
yeah, I would say do your own thing. I mean, that's important. When I started my brand with the Garcias, I didn't try to be the next Opus X or the next Padron or the next Jason Newman. I just had to make my own profile, my own flavor palette, something that meant something to me. If you believe in your product and you believe it's a good product, eventually people will recognize that. And don't try to come out and say that, oh, I made the perfect replacement to a Fuente cigar, because you're going to lose that battle every day of the week. There is no replacement. Right. It's really important that if you're going to come out with a brand, you come out with a brand that you believe in, and that it doesn't compare to anything else. Like, you stay in your lane, like that's your thing, and don't try to sell people a cigar, oh, because it might taste like something else. It's a good cigar. Try it. Please try it. I believe it's a good cigar. Someone asked me one day at a retail store, I was doing an event, and the owner of the store said, hey, can you sell this man a couple cigars? And I asked the gentleman, I said, what do you usually smoke? He goes, Opus X. And I looked at him, I said, I got nothing for you. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, I don't have anything that's like an Opus X. That's plain and simple. The Opus it's his own thing. And like, I make a good cigar with the Garcias, but I didn't try to come over and try to make, the next one of that's already there. The only thing I probably attempted to do was to try to bite off of the Cuban culture, because I was a historian of Cuban cigars, and I kind of knew everything about it, the wheel, the industry, where it all started. And I wanted to go straight after that. But I would never try to go after something that I respect.
Yeah.
That was a big statement, Pete. And I'm sure a lot of people are very grateful for what you just said and very proud as well.
I mean, is there really any original thought left? I mean, come on, we're all going after somebody. We're all looking up to mentors, you know, taking advice, doing similar things because they were successful.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you look at Robbie Levin, and who makes a great product with both the Garcias and the Fuente family, obviously, and then you look at George Padron and his family. You look at these great families. These are people that I look up to and respect, and I would never try to come up with something that's going to replace their consumer base, because you can't. You just can't come out and say, "Oh, I'm the next Padron." That's just the silliest thing you could ever say.
Yeah, that would be very silly.
Cynthia just commented. Cynthia, thank you for the compliment, but I would never consider myself any type of master. I rely on great people like Jaime and Pepin. I would put Jaime in the category of master because of all the knowledge he has with the farm and the tobacco, but he always likes to say that he's Pepin's son. That's it. Yeah. He's Pepin's student.
Beautifully said, Pete. Pete, I have a question. To me, it's very important. I would like for you to speak. It's been a passion of yours. I know it wasn't difficult. I mean, it wasn't easy to accomplish. You devoted so much time. You took so much time out of your personal daily life. You went and approached all the manufacturers, everybody, to support this project. And it's one of the best things that has happened for the industry historically, and to document the story of what you mentioned earlier, not only of what is taking place today, but the ones that we pay respect to, the old masters, the people who gave us an opportunity. You mentioned Cuba. I'm a student of Cuba. I think that it would be impossible. You wouldn't be honest with yourself if you don't study Cuba, the history, and understand and respect where we come from and where this industry comes from and where the culture comes from. I would like you to speak about the movie Hand Road and let the audience know if they haven't seen it and how they could watch it. I think it would bring a lot of perspective into their lives and understanding about the world of cigars. And it's about the people. It really is about the people.
Well, Hand Rolled was a project that was pitched to me by Jesse and Steve, the directors and writers of the film. And I became a producer based off of the fact that they needed funds to put it together. And I've always wanted to have a beautiful documentary about the industry. And really, if you notice the film, there is a little bit of a bias in there, in the sense of that I included everybody that I look up to. It was important for obviously great families to be in the documentary because, one, there's the power, first of all, but also they have the history that I don't have. It was really important for great families like the Fuente family, like the Padron family, Plasencia, and even newer school people like Lido, who came into the industry in the mid-90s. It was great to have, their perspective, because these are people that are leading the charge. But it had to start with where it left off when Castro took over that island. And that's where all those families had to leave and find a new hope. And I think the guys put it together well. I had trouble getting everybody on film because, Steve and Jesse would email every manufacturer to try to get everybody involved, and they wouldn't get a lot of responses. So I had to introduce everybody by hand. And I called in a lot of favors. I think one of my most disappointing parts of the documentary was the fact that we couldn't get Julio Eiroa on film, because I think Julio is part of those guys, that group, the old guard that has carried the industry a lot. So that was one portion of the documentary I wish we would have been able to get, but it was a logistic problem that we couldn't figure out. But the hand rolled you can watch on iTunes and Amazon Prime and also Google Play. It's for rent or purchase, and I will tell you that most people who watch it usually end up buying it, and they usually show it to their friends who have never seen it, and their friends who don't smoke usually end the documentary and going, okay, now we understand why you love cigars so much. And that was the sheer point, was first to show family and tradition, and also show the world that we are not the cigarette industry. That's really important. Hey, Rich.
Hi, Pete.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the day. Rich's Riot. Rich.
Oh, boy. Well, happy 5781 to everyone. It's a brand new year. Let's get it going in the right direction. Melanie, you asked what these look like. That's a Cigar Rights of America membership card. Mine's good till 22. Pete, it's show and tell time. You mentioned this cigar.
Yeah.
I have a few of those in the humidor at home. And I know your love of wine, and we shared a bottle a number of years ago.
Yes. Oh,
happened to
beautiful.
Wow, look at that.
Find an 81 still in the cellar, and
I have
Nice.
a bottle of 1970 in the house of that.
Oh my
right
God.
now.
Oh my
I
God.
think what we shared, Pete, was like an 83 at Reds that time, but this one has a high price tag on it. I just peeled it off. It was $20.99.
You right?
Yeah, but today is the second day of Rosh Hashanah, the New Year for my folks. And watching services online this morning, there was a choir of about 50 people, all in separate little windows all around because they were separated because of the COVID virus. And at the end, it said, we're separate, but we're all still together. And that is the meaning of this entire industry and shows like this, that we have to be separated because of health reasons, but we're always together emotionally and spiritually. So
Amen.
that's my deal for the day. Oh, I missed most of the party the other day for our hostess there, Melanie, for her birthday, which was Tuesday. But I do hear from the guys at Publix supermarket down there that she was running in rather late to pick up a few items for the party. And she was in a big hurry, got in the express lane. And the guy there is chatting with the bagger. And she says, yo, I'm in a hurry. Can you check me out? So he turned around, looked her up and down and said, oh, nice boobs. So that's, no, there's a lady. That wasn't a joke. That was just a true story. Today's story is about this lady goes to her doctor and she has a physical problem. Her labia, the lips down below, are huge and it's very bothersome. And the doctor says, we can do surgery. She says, my only thing is, please don't tell anyone I'm having this surgery done. I don't want anyone to know, no one at all. So she goes through the surgery. She gets to the next morning in her hospital room and looks over and there's 3 roses sitting next to the bed. And the doctor comes in and says, what is this? I told you not to tell anybody. Where did the roses come from? He said, well, one of them is from me because I understand the procedure you just went through is treacherous. It's difficult. And you went through it alone with no other support. And she says, what about the other one? He said, that's from my nurse. She had the same procedure done about 3 years ago and understands how amazing it was and what you went through. And she says, well, how about the third one? He says, oh, that's from a guy down at the burn unit. He wants to thank you for his New Year's. So, okay. So Pete, we first met down at one of Abe's events. And
I remind everybody that this is broadcasted out of
Wait.
Switzerland.
Yeah,
We
well,
don't
wait a
have
minute.
to-
Hold on. Just give me a moment to breathe because I want to hear about when you met him at Abe's, but right now I can't concentrate.
Carlito, you're as red as I am right now. On that.
Well, Pete, we were at one of Abe's dinners, and I just thought it was a steakhouse, and you and I were chatting, and then next thing I know, all these people in the lower level take out all their clothes off, and we chatted for a little while about cigars. And the next day, we met up at the event because you said you had something special to show me, and you opened up a shopping bag with a number of pre-embargo Cuban cigars in there, knowing your desire to understand the history and everything else. And I remember at that time you gave me a lovely Lancero, which, Junior, you know that I enjoy good Lancero.
Of course.
So, Pete, we go back a long way, and
Long time.
welcome to the party, and hopefully you'll get a chance to come back and visit with us again and meet the professor.
Rich, thank
Absolutely.
you. I think
Rich, thank you very much.
our love for wine was a big way for us to bring us together.
Right.
Pete, let me ask you this, because we're almost wrapping up. What does the future hold for Pete Johnson, Casey, Dan, and all the organization that
You know what?
Your
We're just
organization.
trucking along. We're trying to move forward. Obviously, we were a little scared of how to move forward before we got this newest temporary pause on the FDA stuff. But luckily for the company itself, we do have some predicate products, so we can move forward with that if something really bad was to hit the fan. But we just want to keep on doing what we're doing, show expressions of tobacco, and let people try to enjoy the product. That's a big deal for us. I mean, more than anything, we just really want to be part of the industry and involved in the industry and show support to the industry, because this is where we all live right now. This is how we make our living, and I think there's no better place.
It's so true, Pete. I'd like to add that I know you pay respect to the people who have been in the industry for some time now, that were there before you, but I want you to recognize and realize that now the new entrepreneurs are coming into the industry. You're the role model, and you're no longer going to be considered the new one. They're going to watch you. They watch what you've done. They'll listen to the show, and the things that you said are so true, because those are things that I have felt. Be yourself. Be yourself. It doesn't matter. You could have the number one selling cigar in the world. You can't replace that. You got to create your own lane. It's like music. Are you gonna play music? A disc jockey to play somebody else's music, or are you going to create your own music? And as a musician at heart, you've done a hell of a job creating your own music, and you've contributed so much to the world of cigars. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that. I can't say much more than other than the fact that I grew up in this industry and I love it, and it's important for me to see it survive even past my time. It's not just about me anymore. It's about a bigger thing. I can't say much more about this industry other than it's given me nothing but the best of my life. And more than half of my life, I've been doing this, and I've had great teachers, and I've followed them and respect them and follow their path. But obviously, I'm trying to create my own. And yeah, I guess there are companies that are coming in that are looking up to me. But I still think they need to look at the people that have already passed and respect them also. Like, a lot of people that are coming in this industry forget that there was a Don Carlos, and forget that there was an Orlando Padron.
How do they forget that? That's insane.
They just don't know the stories. They think that there's just they see Carlito, and that's as far as they go. They don't realize that there was so much more before that, and they should take the time to learn the history about every company. That was a big deal for me. Like, Stanford Newman was one of those guys also that I was lucky to be around when I was younger, and learned a lot from him, and have his book, and love that family to death. I mean, that's a wonderful family, and they have a new generation of that family that's just taking over. Drew Newman is probably one of my favorite people in the industry because, one, he's a great talker. He's got the legal mind, and he just keeps everybody informed with everything. they have to study every aspect of the industry and respect everybody that came before them before they can do their own thing. Plain and simple.
Yep.
Very well said, Pete.
It's the truth.
Very well said. All right, Professor, wrap it up.
Pete, always a pleasure. Thanks for the invite. When Jeremiah, me, and Carlito talked about it,
Thank you.
Carlito, that knows you for many, many years, said absolutely. And through Carlito, I learned a lot of things about you also. And we've been friends for a lot of years. You make one of my favorite all-time cigars. La Riqueza, Corona Gorda, 5.5 by 46. So the only thing I can tell you, continue to support the CRA, have you done. Keep your creations. Regards to the family, Pepin, Jaime, Johnny, everything. And thanks for everything you do for the industry, but especially what you do for the CRA. And you have a very clear vision that we all have to stick together. So it's been a pleasure as always, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. And I'm sure my wife is listening somewhere in the house. I'm sure she's online. I've been catching these shows by accident, and I'm actually regretting the fact that I missed some really cool episodes with George and then Aaron Sigmund. I wish I would have seen those episodes. Do you guys have archives somewhere that I can go back and watch them?
Absolutely. You
Melanie.
are so amazing. You look at him just getting right into, I didn't even have to interrupt anybody. He just set me up for success. Okay, guys, make sure that you go to our YouTube channel. That is the tinyurl.com/The Professor Show, and watch all of our episodes. They are excellent episodes. You can also subscribe, which would make us very happy, make Carlito very happy, and make Jeremiah extremely happy. So be sure to go do that. Also, if you want to see our shows, go and hit that notifications button that you see right now so that you get notified anytime we go live. And be sure to catch Cynthia and I on Fridays, and Carlito, whenever he has time, loves to join as well. We have a lot of fun and we give away stuff, and we talk about our upcoming guests coming up on the show. So hit the, also go to our Facebook page. That is facebook.com/The Professor Show. You can also like, get notified, and, love all over it to where it bothers you until you follow us.
And Melanie, Pete has spoken about the greats, and you think of greats, I think of Ramon Cifuente, and there's, and so many others, Fernando Leon, people who have had a great inspiration in my life. And I could go
Benji.
Wait a minute. Hey, Jose, don't take the words out of my mouth. And we're talking about Meet the Professor Show. But I just want to let you know, I advise you, if you have not seen the show, one of the greatest of greats, living legends, who's still living, who's retired, you must see that show, is The Professor Show with Benjamin Menendez. I think we did 2 shows. Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, he's another one. Is that the league of greatness has been around. And not only because of his accomplishments, of his heritage and everything, because he's one of the most humble, giving person. He's an educator. He spent his life teaching. And to listen to his stories and to hear from him, I tell you, if there's anything that you could really, that will really penetrate your heart and give you perspective of the cigar industry, is listening to that interview of Benjamin Menendez, the great Benjamin Menendez.
Nice.
Pete, thank you very much for coming on the show with us today. You
Thank
are
you.
a gentleman, you are humble, you are intelligent, and you are elegant. It was a true honor and pleasure to get to know you better and to have you on the Fuente and Marifel show. Next week, unfortunately, we're going to be running a rerun. So, guys, there will not be a live show next week in honor of Yom Kippur, the day of Kippur. But the following week, we will be back live. Ladies and gentlemen, another show of Fuente and Marifel. Meet the Professor. For the rest of you, have a beautiful Sunday. Stay safe, be well, take care of yourselves and of others. And remember, if you don't do it with passion, don't do it at all. Bye-bye for now.
Good night.
So long, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Love you, Pete. Be well. Love to the family.
Thanks, Carlito. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
See you, Pete.
Bye-bye for now.